I'm Ethan Vance, 28, and a year ago, my life was a meticulously coded program running perfectly. My startup, Neuroforge Labs, a deep learning AI platform, was on the cusp of revolutionizing data analytics, and after years of relentless work, we just secured a Series B funding round that valued us at an astounding $75 million. To celebrate, I hosted a dinner at my minimalist penthouse apartment in Stellaris City, hoping to share the news with my family, my Uncle Silas, Aunt Vivian, and Cousin Liam. My actual parents were killed in an automobile accident 15 years prior, and my aunt and uncle became my guardian. It's also the time Vance Technologies was created, I believe with the money from my parents' life insurance, although that was never mentioned. Growing up in the shadow of Vance Technologies, my family's traditional software empire, meant constant pressure to conform. My Uncle Silas, the stern CEO, always dismissed my AI pursuits as niche hobbies and theoretical nonsense, compared to their legacy enterprise systems. While they insisted I join Vance Tech, but I decided to pursue my own path, coding late into the night, fueled by a passion they couldn't grasp. My best friend, Chloe, a cybersecurity expert, often warned me, "Your family doesn't want you to succeed beyond them, Ethan. They want to absorb you." I brushed off her concerns, convinced they'd eventually see the value in my vision. The dinner started with forced pleasantries. My Aunt Vivian critiqued my smart home setup, and Uncle Silas questioned my server infrastructure. As I served dessert, I decided to share my news. "Neuroforge Labs just closed our Series B," I announced, a proud smile on my face. "We're now valued at $75 million. The silence was deafening. My aunt's teacup clattered. Uncle Silas's face, usually a mask of corporate stoicism, twitched. Then, his voice chillingly formal, he began, "Ethan, your aunt and I have been discussing your situation. This technology, this Neuroforge, it's too much for you alone. And frankly, it should benefit the entire family." Cousin Liam, always Uncle Silas's protege, nodded with a smug grin. My blood ran cold. "My situation?" I asked, genuinely baffled. Aunt Vivian interjected, "Your brilliance, your upbringing, it all comes from our investment in you, Ethan. Your success is a direct result of the Vance legacy." Uncle Silas continued, "Your company is essentially the result of family investment. We've decided it's time to formalize that. We'll be integrating Neuroforge into Vance Technologies. Liam will oversee the restructuring, starting with reviewing your core algorithms." I stared, waiting for the punchline, but their expressions remained fixed. "This is my company," I stated, my voice shaking. "I founded it. I own the IP." Uncle Silas waved a dismissive hand. "We're family. What's yours is ours. That's how it works." "No," I countered, my voice gaining strength. "That's not how it works. I built this company. It's mine." My aunt put on her disappointed face. "After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? With selfishness? Hand over the administrative credentials and transfer documents, Ethan," my uncle demanded, his voice rising. "Neuroforge belongs to Vance Technologies now." Stunned, I placed my access card and a flash drive containing non-sensitive corporate documents on the table, then walked out. I drove straight to Chloe's apartment, recounting the bizarre evening. "They've lost their minds," she declared. "You need a lawyer, first thing tomorrow." I resisted, wanting to believe it was a misunderstanding. But as I lay awake, replaying their demands, an insidious thought took root. My family had just attempted to commandeer my life's work. The next morning, as I scrolled through contacts for IP lawyers, my phone rang. "This is Ethan Vance," I answered. "Mr. Chen from Sterling Legal," a crisp voice replied. We're calling about some unusual activity regarding NeuralForge Labs registration and intellectual property filings. My stomach plummeted. Someone attempted to transfer the ownership and IP registration of NeuralForge Labs yesterday afternoon. They also inquired about adding Advanced Technologies as co-owners, Mr. Chen explained. Our system flagged it as highly suspicious as the request came from an unsecured network claiming to be you. You're correct, I confirmed, my mind racing. I am the sole owner and IP holder. The individuals claim to be co-founders and major contributors, Mr. Chen continued. Asilas and Vivian Vance. They provided some of your personal information, including your digital signature and company registration details. Of course, they had it, from my childhood, from old joint accounts. Absolutely not, I stated firmly. They have no right to my company or my intellectual property. Mr. Chen assured me he'd flagged the accounts and suggested contacting law enforcement. The reality hit me with the force of a million lines of bad code. This wasn't a misunderstanding. My family had actively tried to fraudulently seize my company. I called the police non-emergency line. 2 hours later, I was back in my office with officers. My access card and the flash drive were gone. My home office drawers were slightly ajar, and I later discovered my encrypted backup drives and personal financial records had been tampered with. Someone has been in your home and potentially accessed your personal and corporate information, Officer Miller noted. I strongly recommend changing all your digital credentials immediately. An hour later, I sat in Mr. Chen's office. He had sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Let me get this straight, he said, after hearing my story. Your family demanded control of your company, claimed your IP as family property, and attempted to transfer ownership without your knowledge or consent? Yes, I confirmed. Mr. Chen began a comprehensive background check on Advanced Technologies and my family. Within minutes, the investigator had a troubling report. Your family's company, Advanced Technologies, is in significant financial distress, Mr. Chen explained, reviewing the data. Multiple failed projects, substantial debts, and it appears they've taken out a massive loan against their remaining assets recently. They're on the verge of bankruptcy. The picture became painfully clear. My family wasn't just being controlling, they were desperate. My $75 million valuation had likely convinced them I was their bailout plan. What's most concerning, Mr. Chen continued, is this isn't their first attempt at something like this. There was a complaint filed by your late grandfather's business partner 7 years ago, alleging your Uncle Silas attempted to divert project funds into his personal accounts. The complaint was withdrawn, but the documentation exists. I broke down in Mr. Chen's office, the weight of their betrayal crushing me. Not only had my family tried to steal my company, but they had a history of financial manipulation. We need to act quickly, Mr. Chen said gently. First, we'll send a formal cease and desist. Then, we'll file for a temporary restraining order to keep them away from NeuralForge's physical and digital assets. As I signed the paperwork, my phone buzzed with texts from Liam. You're overreacting. Family just wants to help you manage NeuralForge. Dad says if you get lawyers involved, you're no longer welcome at family gatherings. Mr. Chen added them to the file. Classic manipulation tactics, he observed. That night, after securing my networks and changing passwords, I received a call from Ms. Davies, a lead investor in NeuralForge. Ethan, I heard you're dealing with a family emergency, she said. Your uncle called, asking for NeuralForge's financial records for family consolidation. When we refused, he became quite agitated. Mortified, I briefly explained the situation. Take whatever time you need, Ms. Davies offered immediately. Your position and NeuralForge are secure. And I'll alert our security to deny access to Vance family members. 2 days later, accompanied by a police officer, I returned to my office. We found Uncle Silas, Aunt Vivian, and Liam inside, rearranging my server rack and examining blueprints. "These are my family's members," I told Officer Miller. "They shouldn't be here." Officer Miller confirmed they were unauthorized occupants. "We're his parents," Uncle Silas blustered. "This company is family property." "Do you have your name on any legal documents?" Officer Miller asked. "We don't need that. We're family," my uncle insisted. "How could you try to steal my company?" I challenged. Liam emerged from my lab, holding a server blade. "We're just helping organize things." "Put that down, Liam," I ordered. Under police supervision, my family was forced to leave. I discovered several crucial data drives, a proprietary algorithm source code, and oddly, several framed photos of my development team were missing. I filed a report for the stolen items. Over the next few days, the prediction proved painfully accurate. I received a barrage of accusatory messages from extended family. "How could you betray your own blood?" my great-aunt wrote. Uncle Silas had apparently told everyone that Advanced Technologies had significantly invested in Neuroforge, and I was now stealing family IP. They even created social media posts painting themselves as victims of an ungrateful founder. Chloe helped me draft a simple, factual response. "My family attempted to claim ownership of my independently developed company. This is now a legal matter." Meanwhile, Mr. Chen received a certified letter from their lawyer, claiming a verbal agreement that Neuroforge was a family investment. The stress was taking its toll. Then, a broken light on my apartment porch and a note tucked into my door frame. "Family sticks together. You can't hide behind lawyers forever." Mr. Chen immediately filed for an emergency restraining order. "Their behavior is becoming increasingly concerning," he stated. 3 weeks later, I discovered someone had attempted to access Neuroforge's bank accounts online, triggering security protocols. The IP address traced back to my uncle's internet service provider. The final straw came when Ms. Davies mentioned receiving a disturbing email, supposedly from a concerned family member, claiming I was mentally unstable and financially irresponsible. Similar emails had been sent to several clients and to Ms. Davies herself. "This crosses every professional and personal boundary," she said. "Our legal team will address this as defamation against an employee." With this new evidence, Mr. Chen filed for a permanent restraining order and added claims of defamation, harassment, and ongoing attempted fraud. This time, I entered the courtroom with less anxiety and more righteous anger. Judge Ramirez reviewed the new evidence with visible concern. "This pattern of escalation is deeply troubling," she noted. "What began as a property dispute has evolved into what appears to be a coordinated campaign of harassment." My uncle's indignant denials fell flat against digital evidence linking the defamatory emails to his computer. When Liam testified, claiming he was just checking on my cousin's property, the judge asked pointedly, "Despite the restraining order prohibiting you from coming within 500 feet of that property?" "Family obligation trumps court papers," Liam replied, his true perspective showing through. "That is not how the law works, Mr. Vance," Judge Ramirez stated firmly. The judge not only granted the permanent restraining order, but also issued a stern warning that any further violations would result in criminal charges. "The court takes harassment and attempted fraud very seriously," she emphasized. "Family relationships do not exempt anyone from legal consequences for harmful actions." As the ruling was announced, Liam suddenly stood up. "This is bullshit," he shouted. "He's turning his back on family. He owes us. Restrain your client," Judge Ramirez ordered as bailiffs approached. "Contempt of court," she declared as Liam continued his tirade. Mr. Vance will spend the night in county jail to reflect on appropriate courtroom behavior. Watching my cousin led away in handcuffs filled me with profound sadness. How did we reach this point? 3 months after the final restraining order, I was slowly rebuilding my life. The security measures were routine, the panic attacks less frequent. Then came a text. We should talk. Coffee at the Algorithm tomorrow. Uncle Silas. Mr. Chen advised letting it go unless they persisted. A week later, a formal letter arrived from their attorney proposing a family reconciliation meeting. I cautiously agreed. My family looked different somehow. Smaller, less intimidating. Thank you for agreeing to meet. Uncle Silas began formally. We've had time to reflect on our actions. What followed was not an apology. They acknowledged misunderstandings, but stopped short of taking full responsibility. We only wanted what was best for the family, Aunt Vivian insisted. Perhaps our methods were misguided. Misguided? I repeated, maintaining my composure. You tried to steal my company, steal my IP, attempted identity theft, and tried to damage my professional reputation. Those aren't misguided methods. Those are crimes. Uncle Silas's jaw tightened. We've admitted we made mistakes. What more do you want? Actual accountability, I replied. Recognition of what you really did and why. An assurance it will never happen again. They wanted the restraining order lifted, access to my life, but without truly acknowledging the harm. Family should forgive. My aunt said tearfully. Forgiveness requires honesty. I responded. And it doesn't automatically mean restoration of trust. I proposed conditions, full acknowledgement of what happened, individual therapy for each of them before any group sessions, and absolutely no discussion of my finances or Neuroforge. Uncle Silas's face darkened. So you get to dictate the terms of our relationship now? I get to set boundaries. I corrected him. You get to decide if you can respect them. The meeting ended without resolution. 2 days later, a personal note from my aunt arrived. No apology, just a statement that if I couldn't forgive and forget without conditions, then perhaps it was best we take a break. When you're ready to be part of this family again, without all these legal obstacles, you know where to find us. It concluded. The message was clear. They were unwilling to acknowledge their actions or respect my boundaries. They saw me as the problem. Strangely, instead of devastating me, the letter brought clarity and peace. I focused on rebuilding my life, not fixing a dynamic they had no interest in changing. My work at Neuroforge flourished. My promotion to Director of Advanced Systems came with new responsibilities. The way you handled that family crisis impressed everyone, Ms. Davies told me. You showed remarkable professionalism and resilience. Those are exactly the qualities we need. The irony wasn't lost on me. The very crisis they created ultimately advanced the career they had tried to diminish. I re-engaged with friends, joined a support group for family estrangement. I learned to define family not by blood, but by respect and support. I dated again, finding a partner, Lena, who respected my boundaries and my past. My own relationship with money transformed. I learned it wasn't a measure of my worth or something I owed to others. On the anniversary of the permanent restraining order, I wrote a letter to myself. You survived the unimaginable. You protected what was yours, not just your company, but your dignity, your independence, your right to self-determination. You discovered that family isn't defined by DNA, but by respect, support, and unconditional positive regard. You learned that forgiveness doesn't require reconciliation, and boundaries aren't selfish but necessary for healthy relationships. Most importantly, you found your voice and the courage to use it. This letter, unlike the one to my family, I kept. The path for my family and Advanced Technologies took a starkly different turn, a direct consequence of their desperate actions and their refusal to acknowledge the harm they inflicted. As Mr. Chen had uncovered early in the legal proceedings, Vance Technologies was already in significant financial distress, facing multiple failed projects, substantial debts, and on the verge of bankruptcy, even before the attempted takeover of NeuralForge Labs. Their aggressive pursuit of my $75 million company was largely driven by their desperate need for a bailout. Once the court issued a permanent restraining order and NeuralForge's lead investor, Ms. Davies, had instructed security to deny access to Vance family members, their last hope of absorbing my successful venture vanished. Lacking the necessary funds and new profitable ventures, and burdened by their existing financial woes, Vance Technologies faced an inevitable collapse. Ultimately, the family who tried to seize my success found themselves in a deepening quagmire of financial ruin and legal peril, isolated by their own unwillingness to accept responsibility and respect boundaries. My parents had attempted to claim ownership of everything I had built, but in doing so, they forced me to recognize my ultimate authority over my own existence. They tried to take what was mine, but inadvertently gave me something precious: the courage to define family on my own terms and build connections based on mutual respect rather than obligation.
Okay, let's unpack this source material you shared. It's quite something. Imagine this really high-stakes situation.
Yeah.
You've got a young tech founder. His company is suddenly worth $75 million. Big milestone achieved. Everything seems, incredible.
Absolutely. And then, bam, the people closest to him, his own family, try to just take it all.
It really does sound like something out of a thriller.
Yeah.
But this personal account, the one you provided, it makes it clear this was very, very real. Intense.
It was. And our mission here in this deep dive is to really dig into the insights from this whole drama.
Yeah, we're not just retelling the story. We want to explore, well, everything.
Yeah.
Family dynamics, the kind of cutthroat side of business ownership.
Right, and the IP. Intellectual property is key here, plus the legal battle, and honestly the personal toll. Defending your life's work against family, that's heavy.
Okay, so let's set the scene based on the account. We're talking about Ethan Vance. He's 28. Founder of NeuralForge Labs.
Yeah, NeuralForge Labs, they developed this pretty advanced deep learning AI platform, cutting edge stuff.
And it was really taking off. The source mentions they just closed a Series B funding round, which, that's huge for a startup.
Definitely. It signals you're ready to scale, not just build. And this funding round, it pushed their valuation up to, well, $75 million. Impressive.
But there's this whole family backstory. Ethan, he was raised by his Uncle Silas and Aunt Vivian. His parents died 15 years before this?
That's right. And the uncle and aunt, they run their own business, Vance Technologies, more of a, let's say, traditional software company.
And the source even hints, though it's not confirmed, that maybe, just maybe, Vance Tech was started with Ethan's parents' life insurance money.
Yeah, that adds a complicated layer, doesn't it? Even just the suggestion.
What's really striking is the difference in vision. Ethan's all about AI, right? His passion.
Mm-hmm.
But his Uncle Silas apparently just saw it as like niche hobbies, theoretical nonsense. That's the quote.
Yeah, a total dismissal, not just of the business idea, but of Ethan himself, really, his vision.
Exactly. And Ethan, he wanted to forge his own path, build NeuralForge, even though they apparently pressured him to join Vance Tech.
He did. And there's this really chilling warning early on, mentioned in the account. His friend Chloe, she's in cybersecurity.
Oh yeah, what did she say?
She told him flat out, your family doesn't want you to succeed beyond them. They want to absorb you.
Wow, that's heavy. And Ethan just brushed it off.
Initially, yeah. I mean, who wants to believe that about their own family, right? Especially the people who raised you.
True. It's hard to see threats that close. Chloe, though, maybe being outside.
Exactly, an external perspective. Plus, her cybersecurity background probably makes her tuned into vulnerabilities, not just technical ones, but relational ones too, where trust can be exploited.
Okay, so that brings us to the dinner. The moment everything changed, Ethan decides to share the big news, the $75 million valuation.
You'd expect cheers, congratulations.
We would, but the account says silence, followed by this really formal, almost cold demand from the uncle.
Chilling is the right word. Uncle Silas basically says, NeuralForge is too much for Ethan alone. It should benefit the entire family.
And the aunt jumps in, tying Ethan's success to the Vance legacy.
Yeah.
Like it's theirs already.
And then the hammer drops. They announce right there that Neural Forge will be integrated into Vance Technologies.
Integrated, like taken over.
Pretty much. With his cousin Liam Silas's protege put in charge of the restructuring, starting with reviewing Ethan's core algorithms, his IP.
That's not asking for a piece of the pie. That's grabbing the whole bakery.
Yeah.
And Ethan pushes back, obviously.
Yeah.
Says, it's my company. I founded it. I own the IP.
As he should. But the uncle's response, we're family. What's yours is ours. That's how it works.
What does that even mean in a business context? It completely ignores reality, doesn't it?
Totally. It ignores everything about legal ownership, intellectual property rights. IP isn't just an idea. It's legally protected. His algorithms, that's his creation, his asset. Family ties mean nothing legally in terms of owning someone else's independent company.
It's pure entitlement. Thinking blood trumps law.
Precisely. And then the aunt lays on the guilt trip. How can you be so selfish?
Right. And the uncle demands passwords, admin credentials, transfer documents, right there at the table.
Unbelievable. Ethan, just in shock, puts his access card and some non-critical papers down and just leaves. Goes straight to Chloe's.
Smart move. She immediately tells him, lawyer, now.
And good thing, too, because the very next morning, it gets terrifyingly real. He gets a call. His lawyer, Mr. Chen.
What happened?
Mr. Chen reported unusual activity with Neural Forge's registration. Someone tried to transfer the ownership and IP filings online right after that dinner.
No way.
Yes, from an unsecured network claiming to be Ethan.
So it wasn't just talk at dinner. They actually tried to steal it digitally, immediately.
They did. Silas and Vivian had even contacted the law firm themselves, pretending to be co-founders using Ethan's personal info. The unsecured network thing was sloppy, maybe, but incredibly brazen.
That changes everything. This is attempted fraud. Potentially criminal.
Absolutely. The gravity hits Ethan full force. He calls the police, goes to his office with them.
And the access card and papers from dinner.
Gone. And it gets worse. At his apartment, his home office was disturbed. Backup drives, financial records, signs of tampering.
So a physical intrusion, too, after the digital attempt failed.
Looks like it. Officer Miller, according to the account, warned him someone likely got sensitive info, urged him to change all his credentials.
So why? Why would they do this? It seems so drastic, so destructive.
The motive became horribly clear when Ethan met properly with Mr. Chen. The lawyer did a deep dive, background checks on Vance Technologies.
What did he find?
Dire straits. Vance Tech was drowning. Failed projects, huge debts, a massive recent loan they couldn't handle.
Oh, so they were.
On the verge of bankruptcy. That's what the source details.
So Neural Forge wasn't just something they felt entitled to. It was their escape hatch, their bailout plan.
Exactly. It shifted from, maybe a twisted sense of family entitlement to desperate financial survival via fraud.
And Mr. Chen found more, didn't he? Something about the uncle's past.
Yes. A complaint from years ago. Silas's own father's business partner had accused him of trying to divert funds. It was withdrawn, but the record existed. It showed a potential pattern.
A pattern of financial manipulation. This wasn't maybe a one-off desperate act then.
It certainly suggested otherwise. Understanding that history, that desperation, it must have completely reframed the betrayal for Ethan.
Okay, so they have the motive, the evidence of the attempt. What's the first legal step?
Mr. Chen moved fast. First, a formal cease and desist letter. It basically a legal warning. Stop immediately.
Right.
Followed by filing for a TRO, a temporary restraining order.
Explain that. What does a TRO do exactly?
It's an emergency court order. It's meant to prevent immediate irreparable harm. So in this case, legally forcing them to stay away from Neural Forge, the offices, the data, everything, all the courts figure things out.
Getting one against family must be tough, though.
It can be. You need solid proof of harm or illegal acts, which, thankfully, that attempted fraudulent transfer provided. Clear evidence.
And while Ethan's dealing with the legal side, the family pressure continues.
Right.
Texts from the cousin, Liam.
Oh, yeah. Classic stuff. You're overreacting. We just want to help. Threats of being cut off. He keeps going with the lawyers.
Guilt trips and manipulation.
Textbook. Mr. Chen documented all of it, but it didn't stop at texts.
What else?
That same night, Ethan gets a call. It's Ms. Davies, his lead investor.
Oh, no. Don't tell me.
Yep. Uncle Silas had called her. asking for Neural Forge's financials for family consolidation, he called it.
He called the lead investor. That's crossing a major line.
Huge line. He apparently got agitated when she refused. It shows how desperate and, frankly, clueless they were about how business actually works. Investor relations, confidentiality.
Did Miss Davies support Ethan?
Fully. Assured him of her support, security at Neural Forge. She handled it really well.
Okay, so TRO is filed. Does it stop them?
You'd hope so. But no. Just 2 days later, Ethan goes back to his office, with a police officer this time.
Yeah.
They're inside, his family, tampering with a server rack, looking at blueprints.
Inside, while a TRO is supposed to be active.
Exactly. And even with the police there, they're still arguing they own the place. We're his parents, it's family property.
Unbelievable. Did the officer challenge them?
Yeah. Officer Miller asked if their names were on any legal documents. Silas's response says it all. We don't need that. We're family.
Still believing blood is thicker than deeds and contracts.
Completely. And it wasn't just trespassing. Liam was caught holding a server blade from Ethan's lab.
Critical hardware.
Yes. And after they were finally escorted out, Ethan discovered things were missing. Data drives. Crucially, source code for a proprietary algorithm.
The secret sauce. That's devastating for a tech company.
Absolutely. And personal stuff, too, like photos. It escalated from digital fraud to physical intrusion, theft of critical IP, just dangerous.
And the harassment didn't stop there, did it? It spread.
No. It escalated again. Over the next few days, Ethan starts getting bombarded by messages from extended family.
How did they get involved?
Uncle Silas had spun this whole false story that Vance Tech had invested heavily in Neural Forge, and now Ethan was stealing family IP. They even launched a social media campaign painting themselves as the victims.
Wow, a full-on smear campaign.
Yeah.
Isolating him, undermining him.
That was the goal. Chloe's advice was smart, just stick to facts. My family tried to claim my company. It's a legal matter now. Don't get drawn into the mudslinging.
Meanwhile, the lawyers are involved.
Right. Mr. Chen gets a letter from their lawyer claiming some ridiculous verbal agreement that Neural Forge was a family investment. Total fiction.
And things got physically intimidating, too.
Yeah, a broken porch light at Ethan's place, a threatening note, family sticks together, you can't hide behind lawyers forever.
That pushed Mr. Chen to seek an emergency restraining order upgrade.
Every step they took just built Ethan's case, didn't it? Like trying to access the bank accounts. And the IP address tracing back to Silas's internet provider? Yes. They kept digging their own hole.
What was the final straw? The thing that led to the push for a permanent resolution?
It was an email, a really nasty one sent to Mrs. Davies, the investor.
What did it say?
It claimed to be from a concerned family member. Said Ethan was mentally unstable and financially irresponsible. Pure defamation. Similar emails went to clients, too.
That's not just personal anymore. That's attacking his professional standing, the company's reputation.
Directly aimed at damaging trust. Mrs. Davies saw it for what it was, thankfully. Defamation.
So with this mountain of evidence, attempted fraud, theft, harassment, defamation, Mr. Chen files for a permanent restraining order and adds claims about the defamation.
Exactly. Ethan heads to the court hearing not just nervous, but angry. Righteously angry, as the source puts it.
How did the hearing go? The judge must have seen the pattern.
Oh, Judge Ramirez saw it clearly, expressed serious concern about the pattern of escalation, called it a coordinated campaign of harassment.
Did the uncle try to deny the emails?
He did, but the digital evidence was solid. Links straight back to his computer. His denial just crumbled.
And Liam's testimony. That sounded pretty revealing.
Incredibly revealing. Even knowing a TRO was in place, he claimed he was just checking on my cousin's property.
Checking on property he had no right to be near.
Exactly. And when the judge pointed out the court order, Liam said, well, this quote sums up their entire mindset. Family obligation trumps court papers.
Wow. Just wow.
Yeah.
He actually said that in court.
He did, and Judge Ramirez shut that down immediately. That is not how the law works, Mr. Vance.
Yeah.
She made it crystal clear. Family relationships don't give you a pass for illegal or harmful actions.
So the judge granted the permanent order.
Yes, a huge win for Ethan, legally protecting him and Neural Forge. The judge also warned them about potential criminal charges if they violated it again.
And Liam didn't take it well.
Not at all. He had an outburst, shouted that Ethan was turning his back on family, that he owes us.
Owes them for trying to steal his company.
The logic is baffling, but his outburst landed him in contempt of court. The judge ordered him to spend a night in jail to reflect on appropriate courtroom behavior.
A harsh consequence, but maybe necessary given their blatant disregard for the law up to that point.
It seemed like a moment of accountability. Yeah, stark, but necessary.
So fast forward 3 months, the permanent order is in place. Things are calmer for Ethan.
Somewhat. He's trying to rebuild, find some normalcy. Then his uncle reaches out, a text, then a formal letter proposing a family reconciliation meeting.
Reconciliation. After everything. Did Ethan agree?
He did, cautiously, maybe hoping for some genuine accountability,
But that's not what happened at the meeting, according to the source.
No. It was more like damage control on their part, vague talk of misunderstandings and misguided methods, no real ownership of trying to commit fraud, theft, defamation. They just kept saying they wanted what was best for the family.
And Ethan saw through it.
He did. He pointed out that trying to steal his company and ruin his reputation wasn't just misguided, it was illegal. He demanded real accountability, acknowledgement of what they did, why, and proof it wouldn't happen again.
They just wanted the legal trouble gone, didn't they? Without actually changing.
Seemed that way. The aunt even pleaded for unconditional forgiveness. Families should forgive, as if blood ties just erase everything automatically.
But Ethan held his ground.
He did. His response was really insightful. Forgiveness requires honesty, and it doesn't automatically mean restoration of trust. He laid out conditions.
Where were they?
Clear, non-negotiable terms for any path forward, full acknowledgement of their actions, individual therapy before any group sessions, and a strict boundary. No talk about his money or neural forge, ever.
How did they react to that?
Uncle Silas saw it as Ethan dictating terms, but Ethan corrected him. He was setting boundaries, their choice to respect them or not. The meeting ended without any agreement.
Then the aunt sent a letter.
Yeah, a personal note a few days later. No apology. It basically said if he couldn't forgive and forget without conditions, then maybe they needed a break.
So they doubled down.
Yeah.
Refused to take responsibility, blamed him for needing boundaries.
Pretty much. The message was clear. We're not changing, and your boundaries are the problem. But strangely, that letter actually brought Ethan some peace.
Peace? How so?
Clarity, maybe? It confirmed they weren't willing to change. He couldn't fix it. So he could stop trying and just focus on his own healing and rebuilding.
And neural forge. Did all this turmoil hurt the company?
You'd think it might, but no. It flourished. Ethan even got promoted to Director of Advanced Systems. Miss Davies actually said his handling of the crisis showed leadership potential, resilience, professionalism.
Wow. The very crisis they created ended up highlighting his strengths. That's some serious irony.
Isn't it? And he started redefining family for himself, moving away from just blood ties towards connections built on actual respect and support.
Friends, support groups?
Exactly. Found a partner who respected his boundaries. Even his relationship with money changed, realizing it wasn't about obligation or proving worth.
And he wrote that letter to himself.
Yeah, on the anniversary of the restraining order, not for them, but for him. Acknowledging he survived, protected his dignity, his independence, affirming that family is about respect, not DNA, and forgiveness doesn't demand reconciliation with people who won't change.
A powerful act of self-validation.
Definitely. He kept that letter, a symbol of his journey.
Meanwhile, what happened to Advanced Technologies? They needed that bailout.
They did, and Mr. Chen's assessment was spot on. They were already on the brink before the attempted takeover.
So when the restraining order blocked them, and Mrs. Davies made it clear they weren't welcome.
Their last hope vanished. The debt caught up, the lack of profitability. Advanced Technologies collapsed. Their own actions led directly to their financial ruin.
The irony is just inescapable. They tried to take everything, and in doing so, they lost everything themselves.
And forced Ethan to fully claim his own authority over his life, his work. They tried to diminish him, but ultimately, their actions empowered him to build healthier connections based on respect, not obligation.
So the core insight here, drawing from this account, it's really about that unexpected outcome. The fight forced him to see his own strength and redefine his world.
Absolutely. And it highlights some crucial takeaways for anyone listening, really. Protect your boundaries. Understand that family isn't always about blood, it's about support and respect.
And having the courage to stand up for yourself, for what you've built, even when the threat comes from the people you least expect.
Exactly. It leaves you thinking, doesn't it? What happens when trust is so profoundly broken by those closest to you? And what does it really take to navigate that, survive it, and build something new and better on the other side?